right, well, welcome back to Open Bible, Open Life. Today we end the podcast in our value series. We've been talking about the value of stewardship, and today I've got one of my favorite couples in the church, and I really do mean it. Love you guys. My wife loves you and your family. Love your boys, love your daughters, or boys, and you have 5 kids now.
Yep.
Love your whole family. Boys and girls in there. And glad to have you guys on the podcast today. Matt and Lana Sullivan, how are you guys doing?
We're doing good. Glad to be here.
Yeah,
Well, in preparation for this podcast, we're going to talk about Ramsey Plus today. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. But I was sent the 9-minute video of you guys on Dave Ramsey's show. How many years ago was that?
It was literally right before the world shut down for COVID. And so 2020, January 2020, that's how I remember it.
Wow. So right before COVID, you guys went on there. Now tell me, we're gonna go here and then come back how you got there.
Yep.
So you're on Dave Ramsey. So you're obviously calm, cool, collective on this podcast. We get just a little bit more views than Dave Ramsey does. So no,
Right.
but Dave Ramsey is 16 million views or something. You were saying?
Yes.
They just put you on there. They put you in like a glass cage.
Yeah. So
What's up with that? They don't want you near? They don't want you touching Dave Ramsey? What is up with this?
Well,
I saw you guys. You're like in like your own little box.
Well, not really. He's more so in his own little
Okay,
box.
I'm just telling what it looks like from my perspective.
Yeah. So he's like in a little glass box, but he comes out during commercial breaks and talks to the crowd. Oh. So they put you on like a little stage with a little background. So you're out in the studio audience.
Okay.
He's in the glass box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And so why he did that was he actually had somebody from the audience try to like come and talk to him while they were filming, and then they threw up. It was something crazy. So they were like, all right, we're
they
glassing
probably
him
had
in.
COVID. This is January 2020. I didn't even know they had COVID yet, guys.
Oh my God.
Probably.
Okay, so you're there. We're going to come back to how you got there, and we're going to talk about Ramsey Plus. But you are on Dave Ramsey's show. How do you get there? Do you call in? Do they call you? Are you part of a program? How did you end up getting to get 9 minutes on the air? Of course, you get to shout that you're out of. You get to scream and ring the bell and all that kind of stuff. But how did you get there?
Yeah. So you actually just fill out a form, and then it's on their website.
So you wanted to do this?
Yes.
You were like, this is part. Is this the baptism of Dave Ramsey? Is this the public?
Basically, I would say it's like you're putting on the Team Dave Ramsey jersey publicly, and here you go.
Yeah. Which you guys are proud. Which we're proud to do. That's why we're partnering with them. But okay, so sorry. Go ahead. So you fill this out. Do they call you?
Yes, they call you. They
Not
discuss. Not Dave. One of his
teammates.
teammates calls you because you fill out this, thesis of a form.
Yes.
And so tell your journey, all your stuff, and then they call you. Hey, we'd love to have you on. And then they schedule you a time, and you show up.
At the time, you're living in Knoxville, and you drive to Nashville.
Correct.
You stand on the show. You talk to him, and you ended up paying off how much debt?
$80,000.
$80,000 in debt.
Yep.
Okay, let's go back. So you guys, let's go back to how did you get into $80,000 debt? Because we're going to talk about what Ramsey does, and I'm not laughing about it because it's what was it? A couple months ago during my wisdom, and not that you remember. I barely remember my own sermons. Okay, but during my sermon, I went on this little like tirade. What is it called? Rant,
probably.
I'm sorry, guys. It's been a long day.
Oh, you're good.
I went on this rabbit trail, and I was like just talking about like here's the different types of debts. There's college debt, and there's car debt, and there's credit card debt. Those are the kind of 3 categories I gave. But I did have this realization that so many people in our church probably are in so much debt, and we don't want there to be unnecessary shame around it. We want to be able to talk about it. We want to be able to deal with it. We want to be able to give hope. That's one of the reasons we're having you guys on here today because. I don't know the exact term, but you're living in financial freedom. Praise God. And I think that's one of God's desires for our life, that we're not shackled with debt. Not necessarily that we all have tons of money, but you get what I'm saying. So, but how do you guys get into so much debt? You're young. You've got some kids, so you can tell that story. When does this happen? And then how do you guys decide that you're going to get out of it? And how do you even crawl out of that much debt?
Yeah, why don't you take us to California?
So you're in California. That's the first. Your first problem is you're in California.
Yeah.
Welcome back to America.
So we didn't start in California. Matt really wanted to go to physical therapy school.
That's right.
Thankfully, we had little to no debt from undergrad.
Okay.
That was like praise the Lord.
All right. Tell us real quick where you guys each went.
So I went to Furman and played softball, and that's the only way I could go to Furman.
Division I softball player. That's another podcast. We'll have you back, man. Okay.
Yeah, then I went to University of Tennessee.
Okay.
And played no sports.
Go Vols.
Go Vols.
Yeah.
Played no sports.
Okay, watched a lot of sports.
Watched a lot.
We're disappointed in a lot of sports.
Yeah, during that time.
Less time now, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
During that time.
Okay, so not much college debt, praise the Lord, because lots of people get into that. But then you decide to go to PT school.
Yes.
Are you married?
Yes.
So we met at UT, and so 'cause I went there for grad school, and then I didn't have any in debt from that, which was just, I'm so thankful for that. But he wanted to go to physical therapy school.
Okay, let me actually pause. We're going to go back to physical therapy. You have no debt because you were on a scholarship, and you have no debt because you paid for it or your parents paid for it? You don't have to go great
mixture
detail,
of
but
both.
mixture. Okay, so you went to a state school that you could have roughly afford, or you with your family together. But then you decide I need to get this other degree to take my career to another place. But that's what puts you into debt.
Correct.
Okay.
And you even went to community college to avoid more debt. So he did like a year or two community college, then went to a state school.
So you guys already had like I don't really want to be in debt. Which I think is how a lot of people feel.
Really?
Like,
Totally.
You don't want to, who wants to be in debt?
100%. We were doing really good to that point.
Okay.
And then we tried to get into some state schools for physical therapy. It just wasn't working out. So we got married. We were just working side jobs while you were applying for school. I had gone on a softball mission trip to China and met this coach. And she calls me and she's like, hey, Lana, can you come be my assistant coach at Azusa Pacific? And I was like, yeah, I would love to do that, except for my husband is trying to go to physical therapy school, and we really want him to go and figure out what he's doing because I want to stay at home eventually.
Yeah.
So 2 doors kind of open because she's like, I can help you get into physical therapy school, and I can pay for it.
I didn't know this part of the story. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, great, you can pay for it. That'd be amazing. So the Lord opens 2 doors. But when we get there, she's like, Lana, I have some bad news. She's like, I thought a physical therapy degree was a master's. I can't pay for a doctorate.
Oh, no. Could they help at all?
They paid what they could pay for a master's.
Okay.
In lieu of like my salary.
And you're working.
Because I don't need a master's at this point. That comes with the job, but I don't
And you're
need
at Azusa Pacific.
I'm at Azusa Pacific, so I'm teaching health and I'm coaching softball, and he's in physical therapy school.
Which, side note, Azusa Pacific is where there was these famous...
Azusa
Revival.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother... We'll have to have you guys back and talk about that. That happened long before you guys got there, though.
Sure,
Okay,
yes.
so you're there, you're doing softball.
Yes.
You're going to PT school, you're overwhelmed probably because you're like, wait a second, I thought this was free. I
mean, we had a moment
Now we're paying like... Did you think about leaving?
No, because it was
You
so
moved it,
hard.
yeah.
Yeah, we moved across the country, drove.
No kids yet?
We're there. No kids yet. It's just us.
How long is a PT degree? 3 years?
3 years.
Full time. Is it like PA stuff where you're going through the summers and everything?
Yes, full time.
So he can't work, so I'm working, and we actually don't take out any debt for a year and a half. So we have no debt for a year and a half. We're like cash flowing what we can on the side.
Are you? I'm assuming you're living very simply.
Yes. Oh my goodness!
Like a lot of people are when they're
on less than $30,000.
You're so poor you can't even pay attention.
In California,
Living on love because we can't afford anything else.
yeah.
You're good. Date night is splitting a McDonald's fry. I get it.
Oh,
Okay,
man.
yeah. That'd be special.
Yeah. So what happened was we got pregnant. We got pregnant with Eli, and I had to finish that 3-year commitment because that's what got us the scholarship money. But
so you're a pregnant softball coach.
I was throwing batting practice behind a screen, pregnant. And my girls are like, Coach, I'm so scared to hit you. And I'm like, listen, it's fine. I will get out of the way. So
this is like a what do I think, like a Parks and Rec episode or something like this? Is like an episode of The Office.
It probably could have been. It probably
keep
could have
going.
been. And then at that point, we had to start taking out, like the scholarship money they had given kind of ran out. And they gave us a little bit more. They were super generous. But then we had to start taking out loans. So, yeah. I mean,
that's how we
pick
got
it
in the
up from
loans.
there.
That moment, you're like, okay.
Here we go. I mean, we're about a year and a half in. There's no like, all right, we'll stop and pick up.
Yeah, and actually, isn't part of this? I'm going off a past conversation you and I had. At what point? Because this all kind of converges. At what point do you realize I don't even like PT stuff? Are you in school while you're doing this?
No, I'm out at that point.
Okay, we can go to that later.
Yeah.
Okay, so but you're about a year and a half in, you're starting to really pull some loans.
Yes, I mean we're quick.
And at this point, are you still coaching?
I coached all 3 years.
You had to coach all 3 years.
I did.
Okay, but okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And so we get, we're racking up, $80,000 a year and a half. So you can imagine. I had some classmates come out over $200,000 each in student loans, which is just
is this normal for? I should know this, but is that normal for a PT degree?
about.
Okay.
Well, also, too, one thing that wasn't super wise was it's a private school for physical therapy school. So you could have gone to a public school for a lot less.
Is PT and OT very similar in price?
I don't know. I can't speak.
I'm just wondering. Do you ever feel like PT doesn't get the respect that like a law degree? It's kind of like law degree. You're going for 3 years, but sometimes, I've always felt the same about the MDiv. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a 3-year degree, not quite as expensive.
Oh wow!
No,
I was kidding with someone the other day. I'm like, it's a 3-year degree though. So yeah, you're a doctor of physical therapy. Are you still living in California when you start your career?
No, we moved back. So the last half
Get out
year.
of California and get back to Knoxville.
Yes,
Yes.
get back to Knoxville ASAP. Like, we have family. We just had our first child. I'm like, here we go. We were connected with a church in Knoxville that we loved, North Star. Of
course,
with Dave.
Pastor Dave, yeah.
Yep, was still there. And so we wanted to get back there quickly. I did my residency, part of it there in Knoxville. So I kind of had a job already lined up once I graduated. And so that kind of gets to the point where I start working. We're in $80,000 debt. And then I got my first job.
And that's when reality really hit, because his first salary is not what you would think. Like, that's kind of not what we were led to believe in. And that's probably our fault. We probably didn't do enough research, that you really don't get paid enough to justify 3 years of deferring a salary.
And you guys, like you said, were
loans.
very wise. Imagine coming out of that with, I know
tried
it's
to
always
be,
dangerous
but-
to name numbers, but you're thinking you're making a,
60 something.
60, 70,000, but you have $200,000 or $250,000 in debt, and you're like, and at the same time, you're usually trying to, okay, can I get a house? It's interesting. Side note, real quick. I was watching this interview with, what's his last name? Pierre, who's going for prime minister in.
I know who you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The guy who's famously eating the apple while he's being interviewed. That famous clip. Anyway, he's running for prime minister in Canada. And he said, here's the problem in Canada right now. He said, people are making so little money and houses are so expensive. It's going to take the average, I couldn't believe this. This is the potentially next prime minister of Canada saying, it would take the average young person 29 years to save up enough money to afford a down payment on a house. Now, thank God we're not there in America to that extreme at all. But yeah, I'm thinking your situation, even today now, with higher interest rates, with home prices, I'm guessing, I know you guys moved here not that long ago. I bet your house is worth almost twice as much as when you moved here. And so I'm just thinking about all these things that are colliding in people's lives. So how does this hit you guys? So here you are. Wait, do you have another kid yet?
Let me think.
Not yet.
Before
Not yet.
But you're still a family of 3. You're trying to be, I'm guessing, single income for the most part. And you're like, I've got to pay off. Did you before Dave Ramsey gets into this and his thing, did you have or maybe we need to go right there. Did you have this moment of like, how are we have to pay this off right away? Or were you like, we're going to take the long road on this?
Yeah, it was
Does that make sense?
Yes, it was a middle of both, like a little both, like trying to make it work, then like this ain't going to work.
Okay, so tell me so 80,000, what do they recommend? How long do they recommend you take to pay that off?
There's no they recommend. It's like get out of it ASAP. Like,
Okay, but
But
you
they-
have 10 years or
But they
have...
send you, if you want to pay on it for 15 years, 30 years, it's almost like...
It's like, hey, here's a second mortgage. Yeah.
oh, yeah, so you're talking about the student
sorry,
federal loans.
that's
yeah.
what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
we were in 10 or 15 years. I can't forget the exact, but it was roughly $500 a month. It was going to take us 10 years to do that. And so we started doing math. We're like, man, we're not going to be able to do
That's an
anything.
expensive car payment for a decade.
Yes, is what it was going to be just for our school.
And then you're realizing I don't really make the money I thought I was going to make. For this not to be a burden on me, as I'm also trying to buy a house, start a family, have my wife potentially stay home or work part time.
Yes.
I think the reason I bring this up is I think this is where a lot of people are.
We probably went through 2 years of kind of like despair of like, oh man, we deferred income for 3 years. We went and took out all these loans, and now you don't make enough money to and we see the ceiling for physical therapy of what it really makes, and we're like, what did we do? Like, you should have just gone and been like a real doctor. I mean, like,
Yeah, here's the lid. This is the ceiling. I'm gonna bump my head against the ceiling.
Yeah,
eventually,
really fast.
And even that's gonna be okay.
so that was kind of despairing. And then you started thinking about actually going back to he started applying to medical school. He was like, oh, I'm just going to go and be a full-fledged doctor. Like, you even went...
Yeah, I did
I
the
didn't
numbers.
know this part, but
yeah,
now you're really taking on some debt.
Well,
but
then-
Yes,
you,
I did
you
the-
think I could pay it off.
But you're like, I'll have a bigger shovel. Like,
yeah, I
that's
did
what
the
he was,
numbers.
like,
I'm
thinking,
like, if we continue at that path, I can go to MD school paid off 2 years earlier. Literally did the micro numbers and everything.
I could see what you're
But
saying.
he was just trying to figure it out so badly. And then we kind of just got to this point where we're like, Lord, you just got to do something. We don't know.
Now, were you familiar with Dave Ramsey? I mean, kind of. I feel like in general, evangelical Christianity. Like I was telling you guys before we started today. Like somehow I have a copy for some reason of Total Money Makeover from like 2003. I think I'd have to go look. I always date my books, but like
Yeah.
it's old.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of my oldest Christian books. became a Christian in 2001.
Sure.
So. I mean, Dave Ramsey's had a big influence for a long time. It's helped a lot of people. How did you get to the point where you're like, this is, to use your phrase, maybe this is the shovel we're going to now use to the resource that we're going to use to help us, because there are other places. There are other. I don't know. Did you guys ever look into Larry Burkett?
Yes. So Larry Burkett was actually in Knoxville. So he is the predecessor to what Dave does.
Yeah. So when I was in campus outreach, not about me. We'll get back to you in a second. But when we were raising support and when we were setting our budget, we actually were not. This is early 2000s. I was not given Dave Ramsey yet. Although he was on the Uprise, I was given all the Burkett stuff.
Like Crown Financial.
Crown Financial,
yeah. Okay.
All those books.
Yeah, and Dave will openly say, I stand on his shoulders, for sure.
Yeah.
And he references him a lot. So for me, we both have a little story here. It's my grandfather, Dave Ramsey was planted in me, I'll jokingly say that, the seeds were when I was like 3 to 5 years old going to baseball practice. My grandfather I'd get in his old Camry, red Camry, I remember it, he'd turn them on, and he would just plant seeds. Because my grandfather...
You could hear Dave Ramsey on the radio?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I lived in Middle Tennessee. He's in Franklin. And so our early days, I guess with Dave, is local radio before it got national. And so my grandfather, it's really a legacy journey for me. And so my grandfather paid off his house, did everything. My dad actually has, all the original books too. And so I knew where to go. I just had to make my mind up to go there. Mm. And so you can kind of tell what your dad did.
Well, my dad would have him on the radio too, but like my dad had a lot of his books, and they had gone to like a conference. I don't know that they were like doing it exactly Dave Ramsey to a T, but I picked up one of those books when we first got married, and I had read his book, and we had tried to loosely follow things, but I think that it was at that point where we were like, okay, we've really got to try. We want to be free from this, and then a lot of his teaching is on debt. I mean, there's so many other things he teaches, but debt is his big thing.
I agree, getting out of debt. And I mean, we talked about this again in our Proverbs series, but it really is. The Bible says not all debt is sinful, and not all debt is stupid, but all debt is a form of slavery. And that's what I'm hearing.
Sure.
I mean, you guys have both said some version of,
Sure.
I want to be free. I want to get out of this. This
Sure.
is a burden. I think that's how people feel. They feel that usually a little bit less about maybe a mortgage they can handle. But they certainly, when they see big consumer debt, big college debt, big credit card debt, student debt, it's a big deal.
Yep, it is. And
Absolutely.
So how does this journey begin? Because, again, I got to hear you talk. I watched that 9-minute clip. So I know that some things, so I want you to go into a little bit. What changed with your job? You saw an opportunity?
Yes. So
And then how do you put a plan together to pay off that much money that quickly? So you paid off $80,000 in 2.5 years?
Correct. Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So we got to the point, we like to say sick and tired of sick and tired. It's like you got fed up with being fed up with being fed up.
Oh, yeah.
And there's anger, then there's like deep core. I'm done with this. I'm never going back.
And maybe you have to get there to really do a change.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably.
I'm never going back. I like that, dude.
Yeah. I'm never going there.
Years ago, I was house poor, and I'm like, I'm never doing that again.
Mm-hmm.
Where you bought a house that you could barely afford, and then the rest of you're like, we can't really do anything because we really barely got into this house. I mean, the bank won't let you get a house if you can't get it. But I'm just saying, and I felt that many times. I'm like, I don't ever want to go back to that.
Yes.
So keep going.
And that's where we were. And so, picking up where she left off a little while ago, we said, all right, Lord, you got to do something. And this opportunity came kind of when I'm looking at possible med school and all this, where a friend came who actually went to church with us, like, hey, have you thought about this?
No, it was a woman who was in my DNA group. We met in the nursing room at the church on like Wednesday mornings, and she was a physical therapist.
You had a DNA group at your, did you call them DNA groups?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you had this group of women, and this lady says to you,
she's a physical therapist, and she says, has Matt ever thought about doing home health? Like, it pays a lot better. And I'm like, I have no idea. She's like, before you go to med school and take out a bunch more loans, like maybe
I love it. This is the church. This is beautiful.
I know. And
some lady in the church going, hey guys, I see it. I know your story. I want to help.
And we would have never. And she's like, I've got somebody. I want to connect Matt. So Matt went and had coffee with this guy. He does home health, and he helped Matt basically get a job in home health. It doubled our income.
Amen.
And that's
a
the
game
church right
changer.
there.
That's
the body right there.
It not only doubled it from a salary, but for commission based, which was huge.
Yeah.
Because it's like the more you do, the more you get paid.
Yes.
Like it could not have doubled our salary, but if I grind,
basically as much as you're willing to work,
yes.
And then you're like, well, I want you to go out.
Yeah.
You know what's so funny? Did I ever tell you guys this? Side note, did we ever talk about me driving for Uber?
No, I did know that, but only because I knew
So
David.
there was just a time in our life where we weren't quite exactly in this debt that you're talking about. But this is when I'm living in Durham, and I'm a college pastor, and I'm doing all this stuff, and we have 2 kids, and we're barely making it. And I just started driving for Uber. I actually had a pair of glasses, faux glasses, like what do you call like they weren't real, but they were just like not sunglasses, but reading glasses kind of thing. And I'd put them on. I'm like, all right, this is my Uber persona. And
that's hilarious.
and the way that I don't know if it still works this way. When you drive for Uber and you're on the driving side, you get buzzed. Like it'll buzz you if you set these alarms up that hey, like you're during like a surge time. So if you drive right now, you get paid 2 times or 3 times or it's Halloween. You get paid 6 times. And Margie be like, go! I got the kids. Go! I'm like, all right, I'm going to the airport because when you pick up for Uber, you only know where you're getting them. You don't know where. Now it's probably changed. But I'm like, I'm going to Raleigh-Durham Airport. I have no idea if I'm gonna be driving. I mean, one time I picked someone up. They said, "Well, I want to go to," I forget. They were like, "I want to go to Greensboro." I'm like, too far for me.
Oh wow!
So I drove them like to us. Anyway, I only say I know Margie and I know what it's like when it's like we need this extra money, and that's the beauty again of a marriage. And it might look different. Sometimes it might be the woman. But I'm just saying there's a beauty in okay, we're aligned in paying off this debt or saving for this vacation or whatever, and so you feel uniquely freed up to work a little bit more. You're holding the fort down at home. You have this opportunity to 2x your salary, take half of it, I'm guessing, and begin to throw a lot of it at, or a quarter of it, throw it at this $80,000 of debt.
Correct. We made, like everything, you make a budget. We made a plan to pay this off. So we went away on our yearly, team, call it Sullivan, where we go plan the year, our goals. We literally said, this is when we want to be done. And what is it going to take to reverse engineer that?
Yeah, it was so cold outside. We were by a river in the Smoky Mountains. It was like this janky Airbnb, and it was so cold you couldn't even be outside. And we were we just holed up in that place with an Excel sheet, and we were just working backwards. Like, okay, if we throw $50 more towards it a month, how sooner could we be done? We were just if the money went up, how close? How quickly could we be
and we'd settled on $500 was the monthly payment we had to, and then an extra $1,200 on top of that per paycheck, going at it.
Great.
And so we knew this is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. This is our number.
Twice a month or every 2 weeks?
It was twice a month.
Yeah, so you're throwing another roughly $2,500 at this. So you're throwing $3,000 a month at paying off your debt.
Yes.
So $36,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But you must have picked it up even faster. No, that's about right. 36. You could do it in 2.5 years. Yep, makes sense. So you basically, that's another good thing. Hey, we said something reasonable but aggressive based on our current salary. We were committed to it. You guys even had some kind of like an Old Testament Jewish family. You had symbols in your house, and you'd cut. Tell us about that.
Oh yeah. I don't know really where we got this idea, but I don't know if Atomic Habits had come out at that point. But when somebody had said, if you really want to accomplish your goals, make them public.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, well, I wasn't on Instagram much, but I thought, okay, this is kind of weird. But if we made a chain for every $1,000 of debt we're in, and if we just filmed our family cutting the chain every time we did it, I bet we'd do it more often, and I bet we wouldn't miss.
Yes.
Because it would, our people.
Hey, we're my old boss used to say, God made us susceptible to peer pressure. So you better put yourself under the right peer pressure.
The right peer pressure.
Yeah, so there's the right peer pressure.
So people would come to us at church and be like, hey, you cutting a chain soon? And I was like, well, that's...
You're like, if you give us some money, that'd be great.
It's crazy.
Right.
So yeah, we would just sit down, the kids with their PJs, and we'd be like, all right, we're going to cut another chain. And the chains just kept getting smaller. I mean,
that's
it's just...
cool. So your kids, an age-appropriate way.
Yeah.
You're saying, guys, hey, mom and dad are taking this serious. We're taking money. In the same way that we would encourage families to tell their kids, not necessarily how much they tithe, but hey, we tithe, and we're giving a whole the road, whatever it is. In the same way, hey, here's what debt is, and we're getting out of it. Whatever version of that you actually incorporate and brought. Who knows the impact that'll have on your kids? You already do know, but I'm just saying that kind of impact about talking about money and stewardship from an early age.
Yes, very much so. They knew what was going on, very much so. We were open because it was students loan stuff, and so the idea actually come from one of the Financial Peace videos. Dave has a chain around him, literal chain. And so he said, this is our chain around us. And so we would put it over our shoulders, and we're getting this off.
Wow.
And so it was hanging up for everybody to see. And so
they'd come in our house and be like, oh, there's the debt chain we've been seeing on Instagram. I'm like, there it is.
Did you guys make any other decisions at this point? Did you decide we're not going to buy a house? Were there some other decisions that you had to put off for 2 years or so and say, we're gonna drive, I'm making something up, we're gonna drive this car even
Definitely
longer.
We're driving
because that's another
cars.
big one. People are like, I've got to decide, I don't get to have the nicest car. We don't maybe, whatever, we're living in the 2-bedroom instead of the 3-bedroom because it saves $500 a month for this season.
Sure. I feel like some sacrifices we made was definitely didn't go out to eat. Like, David Vogel would come up to us and be like, hey, you guys want to go out to eat after lunch? And we were like, yes, but we can't.
Well, we can't.
you know? And he was like, oh, come on. Dave, we really can't. We would do it every once in a while.
Yeah.
And,
well, that'll spend a lot of money real quickly.
Sure. We didn't do like hardly any, we did no home stuff. I hardly bought any clothes. I mean, we just...
You're kind of probably simplifying your grocery list. You're doing things like, we had a season where it's like, okay, our vacations are basically going to be with... Margie and I both have great families, and so it's like we're mostly going to go with them.
Oh, definitely.
In this season of our life.
Yeah.
Or, someone would be kind enough to say some version of, we've got this lake house for the weekend if y'all would want, let me pray about it. Yes.
We definitely didn't. We didn't do, I don't think we did any vacation while we were paying off debt. I mean, we really didn't.
Well, going to grandparents was a vacation.
Sure.
Well, there you go.
Our yearly getaways, we prioritize that.
So, we're kind of back to where we were at the beginning, which is you guys are on the show, and you tell everybody. That's really exciting, and in fact, maybe we can link that video in the show notes. I'd love people to see it. How does your life change afterwards? So, like, is it is it like things where you look forward to it, and maybe I don't know, like getting your PhD, you thought it was going to be better than it was, or there's now another hill to climb. I don't want to be overly idealistic about it. I don't want to be.
Sure.
I don't want to be. What's the opposite of pessimist about it? I'm just saying. Okay, so then you paid off $80,000 or $85,000 debt. You went on the show. Now what are you doing with all that extra money? Or do you go, I got to start to save? I'm just trying to think, were there some other principles of Dave Ramsey that you're like, okay, we're not doing the get out of debt thing. What are we doing now?
Yeah.
Yep. So his next baby step is actually save for 3 to 6 months expenses.
Yep.
So we start
emergency fund?
Yes. So we start shoveling money there. The crazy thing is that right at that time is when COVID hit. So it's really starting to hit. The Medicare makes a change, and my income goes from like 130 down to like 70 to 80.
That's how we knew it was the Lord.
So you just had a unique. This is make hay while the sun is shining.
Exactly.
And
you guys had a unique season to pay this off, and then it's gone.
And as soon as we paid it off,
like
he
Joseph,
never made
the 7
that.
years of plenty and the 7 years of famine.
It was so clearly, and that's what I tell people is if you really want to get out of debt, say, Lord, help me.
Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah.
Show me, open some doors, show me the way, and he will. I really believe that because he did some, I feel like, supernatural stuff to bring the right people, but we were kind of looking for it too, and we were willing to work. I mean, I think we work with God there, but yeah, and then you never made the same amount again.
Never made the same amount.
Well, let's talk about this. So because one of the things I wanted to have you guys on for a couple of reasons. Number one, I wanted to just hear your story. I love you guys. Love your story. Love your family. Love the model that you guys are of Christian faithfulness in many areas, or in all areas, but especially in stewardship and finances and possessions and property and all that. The second reason, though, what we've kind of dove into, but I think we maybe could end talking about, is just what are some of the things that Ramsey Plus offers. So what we're doing is, as a church, we have launched, this last weekend at the top of my sermon, I talked about, hey guys, here's Ramsey Plus. The best way I could describe it, as I'm learning, you know more about it than I do. As a church, it's a subscription-based service and partnership that Two Cities is paying for, and it's a service for free to the members of our church through the giving page. They can go on there, they can sign up for their family and have access to, it's kind of like how would I say it? Like it's like a Netflix account for taking financial, control of your finance. Taking control of your finances from biblical perspective and principles. But tell us, like, some of the things on Ramsey Plus that you have found most helpful. Like, I'm just thinking, just tell us a couple things. So if someone goes, I know Dave Ramsey, maybe they say, I'm in debt, what do I do? Or maybe they say, I don't think we're in debt, or we're not in debt, but we never really had a budget. We kind of just spend what we make. That's that's probably the most common next. Why can't I speak today? The most common thing that people struggle with next is some version of, I'm guessing, okay, I don't have tons of debt, but basically we don't save a ton. We don't give a ton. We don't even know where all of our money goes.
Sure.
What would you speak to some of these different people that in our church, types of people, and how you think Ramsey Plus can help them? Because you guys, also part of your story is you have now used, this is a beautiful picture of ministry. The reason I have you guys on is because you have actually helped other couples. Mm-hmm. Informally and formally. You've had groups in your house. You've come alongside people. This is a passion project for you guys, correct? I don't
Yes.
want to. Yeah.
Yes, very much so.
What does Ramsey Plus offer? Just maybe you talk for a little.
Yep. So it has something for every age and stage of life, honestly. So it's got different courses. FPU financial pieces. They're big.
That's their
golden
flagship.
egg. That's their flagship for sure. Then they have little courses for, hey, if you're raising kids, how do you handle money for kids?
I love it.
And how do you teach them to do that?
Going to be very helpful for our parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then if you say, I'm out of debt, my home's paid off, how do I leave a legacy? It's called Legacy Journey. They have he's got a book on that. It's a whole course on that. Some of my favorite things is any weekend they have, like getaway, they film it and they throw it on there. So there's marriage and money getaway. There's all this different stuff.
Oh, so it's not stagnant. It's dynamic.
Oh, it's very dynamic.
Here's some new stuff. I just filmed this. Here's something with marriage. Here's something. Okay.
Yeah, new courses like Ken Coleman has stuff on how to get hired, how to be a good leader, all of that kind of stuff on
They've
there.
really diversified. It's not just money. Like, what's John Deloney? He does a lot of. He's a counselor. I mean, they've diversified. It's the whole person they're really trying to help.
Well, how do couples talk about this? I would imagine, hey, how do I get a better job? Potentially.
Yeah.
Yes,
that
it's on
That's
there.
Ken Coleman.
Yes.
for
how
sure.
do I put a CV together, and how do I interview, and
Sure.
how do I put myself out there, and what should I expect? I mean, that's
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. And so they have all these courses on here. That's one part of it. Why don't you talk about Every Dollar?
Does that come with it?
Yes.
Oh man, every dollar comes with that. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so every dollar.
I think it does. We're gonna go with Matt.
Okay.
Yes,
Matt
it
says
comes
does.
with it.
Okay.
If it doesn't come with it, I'll just tell you what it is, regardless, because it's been very helpful for us. There's a free version of Every Dollar, but Every Dollar, I think it's maybe $100 a year, and so I think it does come with Ramsey Plus. But basically, it links with your card, and every purchase you have, you can drag it into the category, and then you can see, hey, I've used 90%
really
of it.
helpful.
It's very helpful because you see where your money goes, and you have a plan for your money. It's not just like disappearing, and you can save up for things. It's hard to describe, but it's very helpful to see.
Is it like I haven't used this in a while, but is it like mint.com?
Yes, like Mint, YNAB, stuff like that. It connects to your bank.
It's really
it
amazing because then you
populates.
get on and you realize, and it even pie charts it for you. Like, oh, that's how much of my income.
We've
is
been
going
using
toward,
it since the time they've piloted it, and it's gotten increasingly better. It's so much more
I'm
intuitive.
sure with AI and stuff too, it's going to become more and more
It's so
intuitive.
nice.
And I just think that's a huge thing. People don't know where their money's going. What would you say to somebody who's trying to budget? What are some keys? Again, we're not going to be Ramsey Plus for them. They can go there. But what have you guys learned about budgeting?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to back it up a little bit is just to say what we've learned a little bit about money, because it ties into budgeting, is that money it's just a tool. All the money we have is the Lord's. And so he's entrusted us to take care of it. We give 10% and then, God, maybe more. But then God's like, okay, use the rest wisely. Be a good steward of the money I've given you. And so I feel like if you're going to steward anything, you're going to have a good plan for it. You're going to know where it's going. You're not a good steward if you have no idea where it went.
Yeah.
If you want to be entrusted with things at work, why would somebody entrust you with things at work if you don't know where your money at home's going? It's just so. I think with budgeting, I think it's just communication. He texts me almost every day. Hey, I checked this is how much we have in our checking, our savings, and so we're always communication.
Yeah. That was interesting when I did premortal counseling. When Morgan and I were going through premortal counseling, one of the things that we had this old school pastor who I love, and he was adamant about joint bank accounts and just that whole idea of, I don't know where I'm assuming that will be with David.
Very much so.
Definitely.
Yes.
I mean, that's the whole idea. Let's not hide from each other. Let's, and then even, it usually changes based on your income and everything. But, he recommended, you want to have that threshold of if I spend this much money, we're going to, make up enough number. If we're going to spend over $50 on something and it's not a normal purchase, we're going to let each other know about
For us,
this.
it's like 100.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, there's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
financial infidelity is one of the main causes of divorce. I mean,
Yeah.
financial stresses is
I've never even
huge.
heard that phrase. But
Yeah.
that
Oh, yeah.
means, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I get it as soon as you say it.
Sure,
Yep. And so
sure.
that definitely what she said. I would add having a miscellaneous category, kind of a catch-all, so you're not like, crap, this thing
I'm
came
with
up.
you. So when I was in college ministry, I did support racing for 5 years actually. And one of the things that you do in support racing is you put together a budget that then is approved by your boss.
Wow.
And you raise support based off of that. That's a lot of nonprofit support raise ministries within parameters. You can't just make whatever budget you want. But I think the hardest thing was what we called it the NOH category, the need of the hour. And that was the hardest one. You're like, oh, I need new tires. You're like
It's
these
just
things
life
just happen,
happening.
and it seems to happen all of the time.
Absolutely.
It's like there's usually not a month where there's not some. It's like need of the hour. Oh, it's the birthday month. It's Christmas month. And I think that's what gets at people after a while. They're just like, so I think there's wisdom with the miscellaneous and need of the hour.
Yeah, you cut back just a smidge to give that freedom, so when stuff happens, you don't feel like crap. I have to stop a month before I can really start shoveling that debt again. You kind of can keep going because you've already cut back a little.
My father-in-law talks about he money and she money.
Yes, that very much.
Like kind of just a joke. He's a Southerner from Chattanooga, but he money, she money, and he'd be like, he'd talk to Margie, let me give you some she money.
This is so funny.
And the whole idea was we would joke a little bit, but it's like there needs to be, especially when things are tight, there needs to be a little bit of that. Hey, I make something up, but here's $25 this month, and I don't care how you spend it.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I think couples, especially maybe always, but I'm saying when things are tighter and it's like you need that release valve. Okay, there is a little bit of freedom because we can't live under this. Yes.
No, especially when we're going for 2.5 years. We had, I think it was $20 of like, hey, go. I can hit a round of golf balls at not midnight, but right before the sun goes down for $2. It's like you learn how to do that. Yes, you got to have it.
Absolutely.
You got to.
Absolutely. Yeah. So.
Okay. Who at the end of the day do you think can benefit? Give us a couple types of people who could just benefit from Ramsey Plus, and where you would even recommend some people start as we close here.
Yep. I think anybody who's like, A1, I'm done with it. Like they are that gut, I'm done with it. I'm never going back. I want to change.
Yes.
It's tough to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, to be honest with you, unless you just got
It's like a diet or something. It's like, I forget it. I miss it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I'd say that's the big one. I think the people who also want to be chain breakers for their family, like you're just in this, habitual generation of debt. I barely get out before I retire, and then I barely have stuff to retire on. So I'd say the people who are like, I'm wanting to leave a generational change to my family. Who else would you say?
I would just say anybody who wants to be more intentional with their finances. I mean, you don't have to aspire to be especially wealthy. You just want to be a good steward. And I would say too, anybody that wants to teach their kids how to handle money, I feel like that could be really helpful. Also, this is one thing I think a lot of people don't think about is he's really good at teaching about insurance. And the average family spends like almost $1,000 of insurance a month. And he teaches you how to mitigate your risk in a really wise way.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I feel like I really understood insurance.
So yeah, in other words, this is not just because I think sometimes people feel like this with Dave Ramsey. They're like, it's for people who are just in big trouble. Does that make sense a little bit? Versus, it's actually more sophisticated than that. And like you're talking about the insurance. Even understanding things like, okay, what is a 401k? What is a 529? What is the best way for me to think about my kids' call? I'm assuming these things like how to retirement, and I think even a lot of help on like, I'm guessing as I've looked through some of the stuff in the past, even percentage wise thinking like what type of house should I be living in?
Sure.
Yes.
Based
All
on
that.
this, what is normal to spend on some of these things? Because you just feel like I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses, or
Yes.
and that's one of the biggest problems of people.
Yep, exactly. Because it's holistic. The financial piece comes from partially getting out of debt, but also having a very clear journey on where to go and how to do it. So it's a very dual, I like to say, financial piece journey of that.
So you guys have found it enough that you have decided, of course, now our church is going to have a subscription, but you have been using this yourself, decided, hey, this is worth it enough. Even though we're out of debt, we're going to continue to do this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've had it we've had every dollar since it started. I guess Ramsey Plus since it started. And, yeah, we were still learning all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So we're like out of debt, but now we're trying to save and do retirement and different things.
Oh, yeah.
So there's always the next step with finances. Even somebody who's retired, they're trying to figure out how to leave a good legacy. So
yeah. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you being on here today. I think the big thing for us is when we think of stewardship, and I'm not the first to say this, but when you think of the category of stewardship, the value that we just spent time talking about, and I know I mostly talked about spiritual gifts this last time, but when we think about stewardship, I always think it breaks into management and generosity. And just as a pastor, a lot of times I think you a Christian in general, you want people to be generous. In every sense of the word, with their time, with their talent, with their treasure. And then you realize, and it took me a while to realize this, some people, they're not generous, not because they're stingy or because they're scared, but because they haven't been good stewards. Mm-hmm. And they'd like to be more generous than they are. They don't save, or they spend too much. And so I think this is the next step for us as a church. in helping come alongside people and go, yes, we want you to be generous because God is generous, and generosity is one of the marks of spiritual maturity, all that. But we wanted to really give people tools, not rules, but tools and a track to help people really get serious about, I think the phrase that Dave Ramsey uses is taking control of their finances by the grace of God, by biblical principles.
Right.
And so we're really excited about that. I don't know what's going to come of it into the future. This is, I think, our first step as we even think about how do we encourage people to think about legacy with their generosity. How do we help an aging population as they think about retirement? How do we lots of people are thinking about schooling for their kids. And so as our church ages and grows and matures, I think we're going to have a lot of other questions. But thank you guys for being here today. Maybe we'll have to have you back on to talk about what life was like in California, or what it was like to be a pregnant softball coach. So thank you guys. As you guys watch at home, I hope that you'll continue to tune in and that you will check out our Ramsey Plus, which can be found on our website, on our giving page. I'll see you next week for Open Bible, Open Life.